The member from Lambton-Kent-Middlesex.
Well, thank you very much, Speaker. My question this morning is for the Minister of Finance. Earlier this winter, you proudly announced that slots operations would be shut down at Ontario's racetracks by March 31st, 2013.
Terrible.
You then announced that slot machines would be removed from the province's 3 border racetracks, Fort Erie, Windsor and Hiawatha, on April 30th, 2012. Sadly, following its annual board meeting yesterday, the Fort Erie Live Racing Consortium said that Fort Erie Race Track would close permanently, putting hundreds of hardworking men and women out of work. Minister, please inform the over 60,000 people employed by the horse racing industry what your plan is for them now that you have single-handedly destroyed their industry and their livelihoods.
Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, so the legislature.
The member from Renfrew, Nipissing, Pembroke is warned.
Speaker, last year the horse racing at Fort Erie received $8.6 million from the slots at racetrack subsidy. Above and beyond that,
Member from Bruce Grey, Owen Sound, come to order.
above and beyond that, the government provided an additional $6 million over the past 3 years.
The member from Bruce Grey, Owen Sound,
Above
second
that,
time.
the government provided another $1 million from Economic Development and Trade, Mr. Speaker. Earlier this year, the member for Niagara Falls asked for a business plan.
The member from Halton, come to order.
For a member who has spoken passionately about corporate welfare, this simply wasn't sustainable. The Minister of Agriculture and Food and Rural Affairs will have more to say about the people in the industry, Mr. Speaker, very shortly. But make no mistake, unlike you when you were in government.
Thank you. Before I move to the supplementary, I will then now tell you that I will look to each member and start identifying you, which will lead to a warning. And the warning is only one. Supplementary, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Since the MPP from Niagara Falls won't stand up in his place and ask the tough questions on behalf of his constituents, I will, and I would again direct my question to the Minister of Finance. The historic Fort Erie Racetrack's first day of operation was Wednesday, June 16th, 1897, and sadly, the final day of racing will be October 30th. This is a racetrack that has survived not only the Great Depression, but also 2 world wars and other turbulence throughout its long and storied history. Unfortunately, the 115-year-old racetrack will be joining the Windsor Raceway in line for mothballing by this minister. What is your plan for the hundreds of men and women in Fort Erie and Windsor who now find themselves out of work as a result of your poor decisions?
That member and his party, when it came to saving GM, said let 400,000 jobs be lost, Mr. Speaker. Shame on you. And that member,
Minister.
And that member ought to stand up for his riding, and instead of blocking the Southwest Ontario Economic Development Fund, he ought to let it be passed, Mr. Speaker. And I'll remind the member opposite, the mayors of London and other southwestern Ontario communities wrote him directly and said he doesn't have a clue when it comes to horse racing. Mr. Speaker, we are making the right choices. There will continue to be a horse racing industry. The only difference is it will be strong and viable, Mr. Speaker, and self-supporting. It won't be reliant on handouts from a government that prefers to close hospitals and fund racetracks, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
Their priorities are wrong. They're different from ours. And get.
Thank you.